Hi everyone, this is Andrew Cardenas from the Office of Budget and also Derek Chin from the Office of Budget. This is the BFS training specific on the payroll reassessment and reprogrammings. Looking at the agenda in the invite, first thing we're going to go over is the payroll reassessment report and the data entry. From there, I'm going to pass it on to Derek, who's going to cover the reprogramming data entry and also a new feature in BFS that we're happy to roll out, which is the reprogramming bulk import. I believe there is a first draft of our user manual on these features in the attachment, so please use that as a guide. I'll give about another minute to let people log in, and then I'll start sharing my screen and going over the report and the payroll reassessment. All right, we can get started. So just a heads up, all the exercises related to the payroll reassessment is self-contained in BFS, from the reporting to the data entry to the reprogramming. We're really excited to do it all in one place, so the data can be transparent. Data entry is easier and it just makes more sense. If you're having issues logging into BFS, please send an email to the BFS help desk. We could put that email in the chat box. So if you're locked out, forgot your username, forgot your password, please send them an email so we can unlock it quickly so you can start working on the payroll reassessment. So I'm logged into BFS. And I'm going to go to the payroll reassessment report, the public report that we generated for everyone to see. There's a couple of ways to get to it. You can actually log into BFS and then copy and paste the link in the memo and then in one of the tabs in your browser, and then it'll go directly to the report. Or you could go to the budgeting section and reporting section in BFS and then filter for the report and click on it. The browser I recommend to use for BFS that I've noticed I've got better performance is Chrome. I think it clicks faster and you get a better response time. So assuming we don't have a link to the report and we have to go to it directly within the application, we want to hover over budgeting. Over reporting. And then in the middle, you're going to have something called user-defined reports. This is where you could save your private reports and also have access to the many public reports that are out there, either published from the Office of Budget or maybe published from someone else within the agency. So right under user-defined reports, we're going to click on the hyperlink, and it's going to take us to all the reports that are available. You're going to see many reports saved here. I have about 890. You'll probably see a little less because I'm an administrator. But if we want to search for my report that I created for the payroll reassessment, what we could do is under the first column title where there's the filter, we could type in FY 2020 payroll reassessment. And it should pull up the report. The description should say data pulled on 7/16/2020 for the following fund codes. It should be a public report, and it should be created by me, Andrew Cardenas, on 7/16/2020. I'm sure other people are getting into the report and saving their own versions, as we see here for OECA. That's totally fine, and we highly recommend that. But to get to the main report, that everyone could see and everyone's working off on, you want to make sure it's the one that's modified by me, Andrew. So I'm just going to click on the report, and it's going to take me into the reporting grid in BFS. So once we're in the report, it should say FY 2020 payroll reassessment. It should look like your traditional reporting grid in BFS that you probably use for many other exercises. Going from left to right, I'm going to explain the columns that we're using in this report. All the way on the left side is RPIO. So you could filter by RPIO by typing it in here or pressing on the little key / funnel and clicking it in the drop-down menu that's populated below. On the right side of that, we have BBFY, EBFY. We're just focusing on 2020 right here. Then we have the fund code, the NPM code, the NPM title, the allowance holder code, and then we have the program area. And just a little quick tip, if you need a little bit more space in the column, just like in Excel, you could just drag it and it will just make it a little bit bigger so you can read it. Or if you want to make something a little bit smaller because you don't need all the space, you could do the same too. After program area, we have program project, which is the program project code. And then we have the title of the program project. Again, you can make it bigger or smaller depending on your preference. Then on the right side of that, we have the total authority. The total authority was pulled in right before CDW went down for the scheduled maintenance. And the total authority was pulled based on your status funds, how much money you had in that line of accounting at level 7. On the right side of that, we have the payroll projection. This payroll projection is a straight line projection as of pay period 14. That was brought in right before CDW went down as well. Before we pulled in the payroll projection off of pay period 14, we made sure all rejects were cleared in the agency. We worked really hard on that, and we were able to get all of them cleared and processed before doing the projection. So the projection is definitely reject free. On the right side of that, we have BOC 10 non-pay charges. These are charging made against your line of accounting that don't come from payroll. They come outside of PCA. That can include transit subsidy, which is probably the biggest one, and any other charges that roll up to BOC 10. On the right side of that is the payroll local knowledge. This is the column that we're asking you to enter your data, and you enter that data going to a specific version, which I'm going to cover shortly. And then the payroll delta sum is the 4 columns right before it minus together. So for example, for the first line, it's 453 minus 689 minus whatever BOC 10 non-pay charges you have. This one has 0. Minus any local knowledge charging, so any new charging that you're going to have that was not picked up in the payroll projection, equals this number right here, which is negative 245. So 453 minus 698 minus 0 equals negative 245. So following the same logic in the second line here below, it's 4407 minus 5703.4 minus 15.4 minus whatever local knowledge the RPIO enters equals negative 1311.8. These numbers are in thousands. They're rounded to thousands. They're not in whole numbers, so just keep that in mind. So this is 15,000. This is 453,000 and 698,000. On the right side of that, we have the FY20 enacted FTEs. So these are the enacted FTEs for that line of accounting. That was part of the operating plan and enacted budget. On the right side of it, we have the FTE projection. Again, this was pulled from based off pay period 14 projection. It's reject free. We cleared all the rejects before we processed this this information and data and brought it into BFS. And then on the right side of that is your FTE local knowledge. So again, anything that you believe that was not picked up by the FTE projection, we ask you to include it here. This follows the same logic as the dollars. So it's 3.5 minus 3.8 minus 0 equals negative 3.0. Looking at the one down here below, negative 27 minus 33 minus 0 equals negative 6.3. As we can see in these first two lines of accounting from this at the allowance holder level, they're currently projected at the FTE level to go over ceiling. We see that their enacted budget was 27, but they're going to go over ceiling by 33, which produces a potential FTE de facto of negative 6.3. This report, you could export it to Excel if you feel like it's easier to work in Excel and to do your filters, or if you like to do a pivot table, you could click on the export, save it in Excel, and then bring it up, and the grid will look exactly the same. There's only 25 records per page, so you're going to have to go through the pages if you have many lines of accounting. You can also change the page size to 50, which shows you more lines of accounting in one page, or you could simply just add a filter up here if you just want to filter out to a specific RPIO. This data updates in real time, so once you start updating your local knowledge in the specific versions and saving it, this should be updated automatically. If you want to save the report for your private use or to share internally in your organization, you could click on the Save Report function here on the left side, and you could save it either as a public or private report, give it a new name, and then click Save. So if you want to have a default filter on it or something like that, you could save it as your own. So pretty much that is the logic of the report. If you want to clear all your filters, you can go all the way to the bottom right and click Clear, and that'll clear all the filters above and start you back in the beginning. Just keep in mind, we're working with a lot of lines of accounting here, so please pay attention to what line of accounting you're working with. We will have close to 1,000 lines of accounting and payroll in the agency, and we need accurate data in a timely manner. So please make sure you pay attention that you're entering or data for the right line of accounting, or you're actually looking at the right line of accounting and you didn't make a mistake. So before I move on to the next section, does anybody have any questions about this the payroll reassessment report?
Audio is confirmed region 10. I just want to make sure that we cannot use in this download and then enter our data, the knowledge, the local knowledge, and then upload back to BFS, right?
You are correct. You can't do that. This is just a report that combines the different data sets that come up with their calculations. The resource data entry uses a different columns and grids.
All right, thanks.
But you could do a bulk upload in the resource data entry screen, but it would look different from the columns here. And I could show that to everyone. So before I go to resource data entry, where we're actually going to be entering our data, does anybody have any questions?
Hi, this is Asif from Region 2. So once we upload our data, we can run this report and see what we uploaded in the payroll knowledge and FTE knowledge columns, right away?
Correct. So once you update your data and you click Save, you can see this. This will update in real time. So you can insert data, and then come back here to make sure you got your desired results.
Thank you.
And if you didn't, then you can go back to resource data entry, tweak it, and then go back and forth.
Thanks.
So resource data entry, there's going to be two versions that we're going to be focusing on. One version is specific to the dollars, so this column right here, the payroll local knowledge. And then there's going to be a second version that's specific to FTEs, which is going to be for this column right here, the FTE local knowledge. In order to get into the resource data entry screen, you just want to hover over budgeting and then go to resource data entry. Once here, you want to click on the drop-down menu, and it'll give you this pop-up. The pop-up is going to have generic filters for the latest formulation cycle. In order to remove those, you could just click on the clear button right here on the bottom right corner, and it'll clear those filters. Once those filters are cleared, you could enter the version that we're going to do work in. So 2020 OPP, and then 901.0. So the one for the payroll, the dollar side, is 2020 OPP 901.00. We just want to click on that one, click OK. And then we're in the resource data entry. Since I'm an administrator, I can see everyone's input. As we see right now, about 145 lines have already been entered into BFS. People already are ahead of the game. So in order to enter a new line for that payroll local knowledge column, you simply just want to click on the insert line right here. And then down below, you're going to get this blue-gray shade color with a new line populated. For this, you just have to populate the bare minimum when doing the data entry. Since this is the dollar side, you just want to make sure you only put dollars. You're not putting FTE in this version. And for BOC, just make sure the BOC is always 10. And that the BBFY and EBFY are the current year, so 2020, 2021, depending on the funds that you pick. As far as the other fields, the bare minimum is just the peach colored, so you only have to fill out the peach colored fields. You could ignore all the other fields. Just a heads up, goal, objective, MPM will be pulled from the PRC, so you don't have to worry about those. And you could just use your execution PRCs, which is the 000 PRCs. You don't have to use the goal and objective. Once you enter data in, you're going to click on Validate. Validate is going to check that you entered the data correctly and they're valid in the reference tables in BFS and in Compass. And then once you do that, and if you don't have a red X anymore, then you could click on Save. And then it will save your data in the grid, and then it will populate automatically in that report that I just briefly showed you. If you want to delete some lines because you made a mistake, you could check them on the left side and click Delete. If you want to duplicate some lines, you could do that as well. If you duplicate lines, what it does is just copies those lines. It makes new ones, but it just defaults with 000 as the value in the dollars. So you just have to enter those. So again, when it comes to resource data entry, the rules are pretty much the same as all the other budget exercises. Just make sure it's all caps. Make sure the BOC and BBFY are correct. We're only focusing with dollars here, so just put the dollars in that not the FTE in this version. And again, this version is 2020 OPP 901.00 payroll local knowledge. And you want to make sure these lines of accounting line up with lines of accounting that are on the report. If they're not on the report, they're not going to merge together. If you're working with an organization with multiple people entering data, you could see who's entering the data by simply going to the right side and clicking on this drop-down menu and going to last updated. By changing the view to last updated, if you're working with multiple people, you could see who's the last person to touch that line of accounting or enter that information. You could simply do that by just going to the grid and sliding to the right side, and then you could see the modified by, you could see the person's username, and then you could see the date. And you could just ignore the time. It's just stuck at 12 a.m. The only thing that's updated as far as the date is the actual day. But you can't see the user who actually entered that information or last touched that line of accounting. To go back to the regular view so you could continue entering data, you could just click on the drop-down menu again and just click on the first option, which is compress left. And it'll bring you back to the grid before to insert and to edit the data. So, before I move on to the next version, just to take a quick look at it, does anybody have any questions about the 901 Payroll Local Knowledge version? All right. Just a quick tip before I forget. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, there is a hyperlink called User Manual. If you click on this hyperlink, it will actually give you our user manuals for each module or function in BFS and in a PDF format. So for example, if you need a refresher on entering data or something's not working, you could use the user manual and look for the resource data entry one and search for that specific topic, and I'm sure we'll have an answer there. The same thing goes for all the other functions in BFS. If you're into doc prep or if you're doing a report, you can go to the PDF user manual here and save it on your local machine. We also have the help desk email and phone number down here and the training sign up. Again, if you have any technical issues or have problems logging in because your password, you forgot your password or your account got locked, you feel free to contact the BFS help desk down here below.
I think Lori had a question in the chat box. Lori?
Sorry, hi. I was just wondering, when we put in the dollars, what exactly does that do? Does that change something in Compass when y'all upload it, or is this just to update the report in BFS so we can see what's going on with payroll? I'm just a little confused as like the big picture of what this does.
Once you update your data here for the dollars, it updates the report that I just showed before this one. And that report pretty much gives us a baseline of where we are with payroll for each line of accounting. After we analyze the data and see where we're at, then we're going to make decisions on how to move money around to make people whole. And that includes reprogrammings or potential reallocations, depending on what's available based on the reprogramming limits or the computer power we have in Compass to process reallocations.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Andrew, this is David Robinson. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have a question. I noticed in the numbers I didn't see any negative numbers in there.
In this resource data entry?
Yes.
So there's only negative numbers in here if someone enters a negative number.
Okay.
This is the data entry. So if you believe it's going to be a negative number, you feel free to enter it. I've noticed some people have entered negative numbers here, which essentially they're saying that they're not going to spend at the level of the projection. They're going to spend less. So they put a negative number here.
And just to piggyback on Andrew, and this is mentioned in the guidance as well, of course, please only enter your changes in here. So if in looking at the straight line projection, you want to take that down, put it in a negative. If you think, oh no, we're actually going to spend more in payroll, put a plus sign, but only put those increments, adjustments. Don't put your total projection.
And that's very important. This is your incremental change from the report. This is not your full projection. So just like Wyatt said, if you're projected to be 105, but BFS says 100, then you'll just put 5 here because we just want the delta, the difference. We don't want you to put 105. Does anybody else have any more questions? Okay, so I'm going to briefly just go to the FTE version. So again, I'm just going to click on the drop-down menu, click Clear, put 2020 OPP 901, and I believe it's 901.6. Then we're just going to click it, that version, let BFS open it up. So for the FTE version, it follows the same rules as the dollars. The big difference is now you're entering your FTE marginal changes instead of your dollars. For this one, just make sure you put the data only in the FTE column and make sure the BOC is always BOC 17. Again, it follows the same rules. Make sure it's 2020. Make sure everything's capitalized. And you only have to insert the bare minimum, which is the FTE, BOC, BBFY, if it's needed, EBFY, fund, PRC, and then the org. Once you enter that information, just click on validate. It will validate if you enter the information correctly. And then once you click save, it will save on the grid, and then it will update the report automatically. Other ways to import data or to do the data entry for these exercises is using the import tool. So you can actually import your data from Excel. It just has to be in a specific template or format. If not, BFS will not accept it. So in order to do that, you click on import. And then you just want to download the import template, which the hyperlink is up here below. And then it'll just save on your local machine. And then let me switch to that view so you can see it. So I just opened up the Excel that I downloaded from BFS. This is the template. It has the same columns as the resource data entry. So you can enter your data here and then import it into BFS. Just like the BFS resource data entry, you only have to do the bare minimum. You don't have to fill out every column. So you just have to fill out the BBFY, EBFY, the fund code, your org, your PRC. Then and I'm just pressing tab to go to the right side. And then if I'm putting this in the dollars version, I'm going to put 10. And then let's say I want to do 100,000, because remember BFS resource data entry and reporting is in thousands. I'm going to put in 100. And then that's one line of accounting, the bare minimum for that line of accounting. And again, you could do as many as you want. So if you just want to copy and paste, and then just change it a little bit, change the number. You could do it all here in Excel. Once you're done, you just save it in your local machine. So I'm just going to save it. And then you go back into BFS. Once you're back in BFS, what you want to do is just like the resource data entry, you could just select the version you want to import it in. So I'm going to go back to the 2020 OPP 901, the payroll local knowledge. Once you're here, it's going to give you two options. It's going to ask you, hey, do you want to replace your data with the data that's in the Excel sheet? And it's only going to replace data where the lines of accounting in the grid match the Excel sheet. So if you're doing this for the first time and you haven't entered any data, you don't have to worry about replacing anything because you haven't entered anything yet. But if you already have data entered in there and you have replaced, just make sure that you're aware that those lines accounting will be replaced with what you have in your Excel. Here we have a little description. So again, replace will overwrite the source version of the imported data where the accounting lines are identical. So again, only if you already started entering information and the accounting lines are identical in the grid to what's in Excel. If there's new accounting lines in your Excel sheet that are not already in BFS, you don't have to worry about it. BFS will just add those new accounting lines. The reverse of replace is merge. So instead of replacing those lines of accounting that match from the Excel sheet in BFS, BFS will merge. So for example, if you already entered data and you had 10, and in the Excel sheet you had 5, if you do the merge, it's going to create 15. It's going to merge them back both together, and it will be 15. The same rule applies to any new lines of accounting. If you have new lines of accounting, it will just be added to the grid no matter what. Down here below, you just click on Browse, and you just click on the file that you want to import in, and then you just click on Import. Once you click on Import, it's going to do a validation check just to make sure what you entered is correct values for BFS and Compass, and also check that the template is in the correct format. If everything checks, you just click on Save, and then it'll be added to the resource data entry grid. So does anybody have any questions about importing data from Excel? And again, you could use either one. You could do it either by hand or Excel. They both work fine.
I have a question. This is Tanisha in Region 3. If I wanted to use it for payroll and FTE, do I have to do 2 separate imports?
That's a good question. Yes, if you're going to do one for payroll and FTE, they have to be 2 separate files, and you have to import them separately. One to 901 and the other one to 901.06. So just make sure you do them separately.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about importing your data? The last option for doing your data entry is a multi-version resource data entry, which is the last option under the budget formulation link. This is a fairly new feature in BFS, something we never had in BAS, which lets you do data entry for multiple versions at the same time. So if you want to enter data, if you want to enter your payroll and FTE data at the same time in the two separate versions, this is the one that I recommend to use. So in order to use it, you just click on the multi-version resource data entry, and then just like everything else in BFS, you're going to get a drop-down. And then it's going to ask you what versions do you want to enter data in. On this screen right here, it's going to allow you to select multiple versions. Oh, let me just clear the filter. Let me go to the 901. So let's say I want to do 901.00. I check it off there. And then I want to do the FTE local knowledge. I just check it off there. So just make sure you have them both checked off. And you could check off up to 5, but for this exercise, since we're just concerned with 2, we're just going to check off these 2. Once you do that, you click OK. And then BFS is going to generate and populate the data. So just like the resource data entry grid, pretty much looks identical and has the same options to insert your data. The only difference is if you scroll down and you scroll to the right, you're going to see that you could enter your FTE data and your dollars data at the same time. So for example, if I want to click insert, I could click it twice. I could do 10, and then the dollars, it's going to be 100, and then at the same time I'll write 100. I could put 17, and then for that 100,000, let's say it's 2 FTEs, so I could put 2. So I could put the payroll dollars, the payroll information, and the FTE information at the same time. And then I could fill out the lines of accounting on the left, just like I do in resource data entry. The only thing you want to keep in mind is just make sure for the FTE versions, there's only data in the FTE column, which is this one right here. Don't put any data in the FTE dollars section. We don't want anything there. And the reverse is true for the payroll local knowledge. You just want information in the dollars column. You don't want to put any data in the FTE column for the payroll local knowledge section. Once you enter the data, just like the resource data entry, you validate. It's going to make sure everything's entered correctly. You'll know if it's not entered correctly because it'll have a red X. If it doesn't have a red X, that means everything's good. And then you could click on save, and then it'll save your data into BFS. So that's it for the 3 types ways to enter data to those 2 versions. You have, again, the resource data entry, which is the basic data entry, the legacy one, probably the most common one. Then you also have the import tool. So if you want to import your data in Excel using those specific templates, you can use that. And then you have the latest version of entering data, which is entering data for multiple versions at once. You could do that as well. And again, if you're using the import feature, just please make sure you use the template and you don't change the column names for the templates or the column orders. It has to be in a specific order. We recommend not changing that. So before I pass it on to Derek, who's going to go over the next phase of the payroll reassessment, which are the reprogrammings within BFS, does anybody have any questions about the report or about resource data entry in general? All right. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to pass it to Derek Chin.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Derek, Office of Budget Systems team. So I'll be going over the reprogramming module with everybody. Let me share my screen. And if you can all confirm that you're able to see my screen, that'd be great.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, like I said, we'll be going over the reprogramming module. It's very similar to what Andrew just went over. So it'll kind of be a rehash of the resource data entry. So first thing you want to do is you want to navigate to budgeting. Under budget execution, there is the reprogramming data entry link, and then there's also the reprogramming import. I'll go over the data entry one first. So I'll go ahead and click that. It's very similar to what Andrew went over in the resource data entry, only this pertains to reprogrammings. So I'll basically break it down to you in 3 steps. So step number 1, what you want to do is select your version. So to do that, you click on your drop-down box, and just like in resource data entry reporting, you'll choose your version, and from here you'll notice it defaults to 2020 OPP. You can change the filters if you want to, but since it defaults to 2020, the current year, we'll just go with this. And I think the exercises that you guys want to use are going to be 200 for regular reprogrammings, and then 200.01 for Congressional control reprogrammings. I believe those are the 2 versions that you'll be working with. But for this demo, I'm going to choose 720. This is something that I set up specifically just to demo. Okay, so I'll click OK. And so yeah, this is the reprogramming data entry screen. You have a bunch of different options that you can choose from. So the second step to creating your reprogramming is to create your header, or your also known as your document number in Compass. And so to create your header, what you want to do is click the Add/Edit Reprogramming Headers button down here. And so from there, you want to click the plus sign in the top left-hand corner. This will add a new header. As you can see, I already have some down here, but we'll go ahead and create a new header by clicking the plus sign. And then we're going to go ahead and enter our document number. So there's a few rules to this. I'll go over them now. So the first rule, everything's got to be uppercase, no lowercase letters, no special characters. But if you do need to use spaces, we suggest using a dash or an underscore. The format will be go something like your RPIO, the BBFY, the fund code, and then your running number. So as an example, I'll say 10 dash the BBFY, in this case 2020, the fund code, say EPM, and I guess your 3-digit running number. So I'll say 202. And I think that's it for the document number. And I think if you're the receiving office, I don't know, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're the receiving office, I believe you'll have to create the header and the document number. So you'll have to coordinate with who you're sending it to, I guess who's sending it to you, and if you're receiving it. So that's the document number. You'll give it a
You're
description.
correct, Eric.
Yep. Okay. So you'll give it a description if you have one. Extended description. You're limited to 300 characters, but I believe you should make it as detailed as possible. I believe the control team really likes that. And then your RPIO. So in this case, since I'm region 10, I'll go ahead and select region 10. And the approved button, you won't be able to click on this. This is, I guess, strictly for us in OB and more specifically the control team. So yeah, that's basically it on creating your header and your document number. So I'll go ahead and click save. And here is your header. So the third step, we'll close out of this. So the third step is actually inserting your records into your header. So to do that, we'll have to click on the drop-down box up at the very top where it says Reprogramming Header. And then we'll find our header, click on it, highlight it, and click OK. And then, as you can see, the grid comes down just like Andrew went over in the resource data entry screen. Looks pretty much the same. So to enter, I guess your from in 2 lines, all you want to do is simply click on the insert button. All right, same blue line. And all you want to do is fill out the peach colored fields that are required. So I'll go ahead, type in 10, 2020 BBFY, fund code B. And since it's a 2-year fund, we're required to put in the EBFY. PRC, I'll say, LJ4. Make sure, I guess, it starts with the 3 zeros. We don't care about the formulated one, the formulated PRC, strictly the execution PRC. And our org of, I guess, 10A. So if that's our from, where it's coming from, where the money's coming from, it's going to be a negative. So we'll do negative 100. And just a few notes. The dollars are going to be in whole dollars in the reprogramming data entry screen. So, if you see something like this, negative 100, 0.20, that literally means negative $100.20. I know in the resource data entry screen, that would represent negative $100,200. But in reprogrammings, we go down to the penny, so it's strictly whole dollars. So that's one note. Okay, and then we'll enter our 2-line as well. And as you can see, that last record validated. So I'll enter the 2-line where it's going to. Let's say D. So since it's no year fund, we're only required to enter the BBFY since there's no EBFY for ending budget fiscal year. And our PRC. And then our org. So 10B. Okay, click validate. And then save. Oh, okay. Well, I'll do B. Well, actually, let me go back to the message. So if I go ahead and click save, the fund codes. Here's another note and rule. The fund codes have to match. BBFY, EBFY have to match. So it'll ask you if you really want to save. You can save it, but just know that like when the control team goes ahead and reviews your reprogramming, they're going to come back to you and say, this is incorrect. You'll have to go and fix it. So it's better to fix it now. So again, you got to have matching fund codes. And with matching fund codes comes matching BBFYs and EBFYs. So I'll go ahead and change the EBFY to 2021 as well. I'll click save. Okay, no error messages this time. I'll go ahead and click save or say yes to confirm my changes. And yeah, now your reprogramming is complete. You can see the dollars up here, net to zero. If it didn't, I believe you would also get an error message saying that, you know, your reprogrammings don't equal to zero. So again, just it'll ask you, you know, if you really want to save or not. So yeah, just make sure your dollars are matching and they net to zero. But I think in instances where, you know, it's inter-office reprogrammings, that's okay, because you'll just enter your side of the equation, your either from or to line, and then the other office will enter their from or to line, and then it'll eventually net to zero if you put in the correct information. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click save, and yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to reprogramming data entry. Let's see. Another note is, let's see. Oh man. So inter PRC reprogrammings between NPMs is prohibited. So let's say in this example, I am NPMY, so I'm OMS. So basically, when I enter a reprogramming, let me bring it up really quick. You can't have a PRC that doesn't have the Y in it. So let me give you an example. This NPM test. Okay, so if you're an NPM, if you work in headquarters, you know, you can fill out all of the information. BOC 10, you know, 2020, D. But the PRC, so I have 00Y F2 down here. I can't have, you know, 000JE5. So the J represents OCFO. Yeah, let's say, you know, work 17. So yeah, I can't have 00JE5 as I can't enter it because in BFS the security prohibits you from, you know, transferring funds to a different office. So you'll have to coordinate with, in this case, OCFO, or, you know, if you have any other inter-office reprogrammings, you'll have to coordinate with the other office to make sure that they can enter their from or to line, and then you enter your from or to line. So yeah, that's just one thing to note. Also, if you're a region, I believe you can only do intra-regional reprogrammings. So you can't do, you know, if you're in region 10, you wouldn't be able to do, you know, 10 to region 2, or even like the headquarters RPIOs. So like 75, 77. You'll have to, again, coordinate with your reciprocating office and just make sure that they enter their from and to lines. So yeah, it's just how the security is built within BFS. So again, coordinate your from and to lines if it is like an inter-office reprogramming. Okay, did anybody have any questions about reprogramming data entry? Okay, so
I think we have
Sorry,
one question in the chat box.
Yeah.
If you want to say your question over the microphone.
Will do. Hi, I'm Katie in Oxford Water. I just had a quick question. So you were saying if we were coordinating with another office to do the reprogramming, would it then one office have just a negative and one have just a positive? So our submission wouldn't be, when we submit, it wouldn't be equal to 0. Would that cause an error or something that CFO would just flag and see, but once both were submitted, it would be fine?
I mean, it'll probably flag an error. So let's say you're the first person to enter the reprogramming, and you set it up. So maybe if you had a negative in there, it'll say, it'll come up with that error saying, do you really want to save with, because it doesn't net to 0. You can go ahead and click yes and say okay, and it'll save. And then when the reciprocating office enters their data, like their from or to line, it should net to 0 if they put in their numbers correctly, and they should be able to click save, and it should all go through without any problems.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions regarding reprogramming data entry? Okay, if not, let's see, we'll go to reprogramming import. So this is the second way to enter data into the reprogramming module. So if you go up to the top again, where it says budgeting, we'll go under budget execution, and then under budget execution is the reprogramming import. And if we go ahead and click on that, it'll bring up, your hyperlink for the download import template, and also your drop-down box for the version selector. So again, there's 3 steps to this. What you can do is first download your import template. So just like in the RDE import, this allows you to download the template. Okay, and then I already have one set up. So let's see. All right, so everything is filled out. It looks pretty much the same as the resource data entry. The only difference is there's these 3 or 4 columns, extra columns for the reprogramming header, description, extended description, and the header RPIO. Okay, so let's see. All right, so like the resource data entry, what we want to do is fill out our dollars, our BOC, our BBFY, our funds, and our PRC, and then also our org. So those are the required fields, and you'll have to fill those out. Otherwise, you won't be able to validate your data. And then if you want to create like a totally brand new header, you'll have to fill out, again, all 4 of these new columns. So you'll put in your reprogramming header, your description, extended description, and your RPIO. And you can do multiple headers at one time if you wanted to. So I'll have 2 going at one time. And yeah, so that's if you want to create completely new headers within the reprogramming module. If you want to do, let's see, let's say if you wanted to merge with an existing header, you're just going to fill out the reprogramming header over here. So you don't have to fill out like any of the description, extended description, header RPIO. It'll just, merge with what's already in that existing reprogramming header. So let me go back to BFS and I'll select our version. And again, 720, but I believe you guys will be doing the 200 and 200.01. But for demo purposes, I will select 720. Okay, and then again, like the import feature in resource data entry, this is either replace or merge. So if you have identical lines, BFS, the spreadsheet will replace what's in BFS. If you have identical lines between your spreadsheet and BFS, again, and you click merge, the identical records will sum together. So yeah, those are the two distinctions. So I'll go ahead and click here to browse on the file and find the spreadsheet that we created. So the first one I'll do is the one with completely new headers that don't exist yet. So this should say like test 3, test 4. So a pop-up message will appear. New headers will be added to the version, test 3, test 4. Do you want to continue? I'll say yes. Okay, so I did a merge, but they're brand new lines, brand new headers anyways, so it'll just add on to what's in BFS. So you have to validate your information here. If there's anything incorrect, like your PRC is wrong, this is where you would fix it. But since everything looks good, we'll go ahead and click save and say yes. Okay, and then if we go to reprogramming headers, okay, so if you click on reprogramming headers, it might not show you all the headers that are within your version when you import. So you got to go back up to reprogramming version up here. Just select, the same version that you were working in, 720. And if you click on reprogramming headers again to see all of your headers, you will see the new ones that we've created, test 3 and test 4. And if I click on OK, then you'll see the lines that we've added, test 3, and they were pretty much the same information. So test 3 and test 4. And so yeah, that's basically it. Let me do a merge with an existing header. So let's see. This is the same accounting information. It's just that we're going to merge it into test 3, which I just created. So again, if you're going to merge it into a header that already exists, you don't need the description, extended description, or header RPIO. I think that would just kind of confuse BFS. So what you want to do is just save your Excel file, and let's see. All right, go back to reprogramming import. And then we're going to select the same version, 720, and click OK. And I guess, like I said, we'll do a merge. So technically, everything should double within this version since it's the same accounting information on each of the lines. And again, just make sure it's saved as an Excel file. I'll go ahead and import. So again, the header for test 3, that should be merged together. Okay, and again, you know, it'll be blank, but you know, if you go back to your version selector and select 720, and then your reprogramming headers, test 3 is there. And if we open that, I think it should be like 200. Oh, yeah. Okay, so there's 2 lines in there. I guess I changed the BOC. So yeah, everything merged in. 100.15, 100.15, and then the negatives. So yeah, that's basically it for importing. Did anybody have any questions regarding importing? Okay, if there's no questions on importing, then I guess the last thing we'll go over is the Congressional limits report. I'm not sure how often you guys would use this. I know the control team uses this report very often when you know they do their approvals, but this is the Congressional reprogramming limits report. So if you go to reporting, and then you go to standard reports, and under standard reports are the agency-wide reports. I'll go ahead and click on that. And from there, all right, so at the very bottom, there's 2 reports. There's the CO approved reprogramming congressional limits report and the NOA approved reprogramming congressional limits report. So I guess in this case, for this exercise, we're going to be looking at the NOA congressional limits. This is just to make sure, you know, I guess within program areas, you don't go over the allotted amount of either $1 million or 10%. So I'll go ahead and click on NOA approved reprogramming congressional limits report. So it should automatically default to certain versions already. So you'll see here the baseline version is the 2020 enacted op plan. Then there's the baseline plus approved reprogrammings, and this is your op plan plus all of the reprogrammings that we already have out there that have been approved by the control team. Okay, and then the last version is going to be blank. This is the one that you're going to have to pick. It's the reprogramming version, so the current one that we're working on. So I'll go ahead and select the dropdown, and I guess in this case we want to do the 2020 OPP, and I guess it's going to be the 200.01 version. So that's the one that you're going to, I guess, select when building this report. Yeah, you can go ahead and click OK. And then there's the $1 million limit down here. You can change it, but I believe, you know, we have that set up to be $1 million just across the board. And then click Generate Report. And then it should bring up a report that looks like this. Okay, so yeah, let me go over the columns real quick. So basically, this report is just telling you, you know, between program areas, if you're over a certain limit, the lesser of, I guess, $1 million or 10%. So the lesser of the two. So you can see over here, there's, brownfields program area for EPM. That's that information. And then also you have like even more detail. You'll have like your program projects and even sub-program projects, like in the geographic programs. But yeah, this is basically what the report's telling you. So the first column with all the numbers is your enacted op plan. So this is what we were budgeted. The second version, or the second column, is your enacted op plan plus any reprogrammings that have gone throughout the fiscal year within this within these program areas. So you can see for enforcement down here in EPM, we were budgeted 231 million, but in the reprogrammings plus the baseline column, there's only 230 million there currently. And that is because in this third column, we have moved out $220,000 from this program area. And this third column basically is the delta between the first two columns. And it's just telling you, how much has moved in, how much has moved out, based on the reprogrammings that are in BFS currently. So positive, basically saying you brought in more reprogramming dollars into this program area, or negative, which means you've sent out money with all the reprogrammings out there. Okay, and then the next column over is your current version that you're working with. So I guess in your case, it's going to be 200.01. But for this demo, I did version 720. So going through that, I made some changes earlier in BFS. So for example, in Fund C, Program Area CP, and Program Project L2, I think I moved $650,000 into this program area, and that only had a budget of $6 million. So basically, I moved in about 10.8% more. So that basically breaks the congressional limit, and that tells us that 650,000 is more than 10% of 6 million, which would be 600,000. So I'm over, and that's basically what the report is telling you. You will know that you're over or you busted a limit if it's highlighted in yellow. And then also, let's see. So I guess in this case, again, this is the current version that you're working with. And then this column over is going to be all of your reprogrammings all together. So in this case, I didn't move any in between throughout the whole year. I had $0 reprogramming moved in program area CP for the whole year. $0 moved. But this current version, I had moved 650K. And so, 0 plus the 650 gives you a total of 650,000 total approved reprogrammings. Maybe I had, so this one, I had 30,000 approved throughout the year. And then I had 1 million sent out. So I basically had 970,000 sent out over the year. So yeah, and then the next column over is basically just the calculation of the percentage of how much of your current approved total approved reprogramming amount over your baseline. So that's your op plan. So again, 650,000, you know, divided by 6 million. And, you know, that breaks your 10% threshold. So yeah. And then the next column over, your remaining ceiling in. So since we've already taken in more than we could, we're $50,000 over, but we have now a remaining ceiling out of $1.25 million. And then I think another example that I did where, you know, the budget was more than, you know, $10 million is this one down here. So in research, safe and sustainable water resources, I have a budget of 110 million, but let's see, I had 0 reprogrammings throughout the year in this program area happen. But for this particular reprogramming this month, I had over $1 million in approved reprogrammings. So if you add these two columns up for the total year, I'm over $1 million and $1 over the limit of $1 million. So again, it's the lesser of the two, either 10% of your budget or $1 million straight up. So again, your remaining ceiling in is -$1 since I'm over $1, but my remaining ceiling out basically doubled since I brought in $1 million. So yeah, that's basically what the report tells you. It's good to have. I don't know if you guys will use it too often, but I know the control team does when they look at what they're approving. So it's helpful for them. So yeah, that's basically the report. Did anybody have any questions about the report? All right. So if there's no questions about the report, that's basically it for the reprogramming module. Did anybody have any questions in general about reprogrammings?
Hi, Dick. This is Andrew. I can close it off with the dates. Just remind folks the dates for the memo.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so just going off the major milestones and dates for the memo, we're asking RPIOs to enter their local knowledge in BFS by COB the 21st. We plan to share the data to enter into BFS reprogramming July 24th, and we're giving up to July 29th for RPIOs to enter those OB-approved reprogrammings in BFS. After that, OB will analyze and brief up any options for the remaining issues identified in the assessment, and then we'll work with RPIOs to process any of those options or decisions we made after all the reprogrammings are done. I could stay on the line if anyone has any questions, any general questions about the exercise and assignment, anything related to the payroll reassessment or to BFS. So I'll just stay on the line and feel free to ask any questions. Thank you very much, Derek, for your help.
Andrew is Khan again. Question on the reprogramming. So what you say in that region will have to enter all the reprogramming that